Welcome to Storytime. I'm glad that you're here. I want to share with you kind of a sequence of stories from my childhood and how, in lots of reflection and introspection and self-study, how they have helped me as an adult making decisions, choosing what to say yes to and what to say no to. I would never have chosen to do what I was about to do, not on my own. It would never have even occurred to me. So why was I about to do something that in my own wisdom, I would never have chosen to do? Well, let me back up this story. My brothers, I have three of them older than I, they were running through the house. They were coming in the sliding glass door of the lower level of our house in the backyard. Running through the house, I could hear them climb the stairs and then pitter patter across the upstairs to where then I would hear this kind of soft thud. And a few seconds later, they would appear again at the sliding glass door. Well, I had object permanence at this age in my life, somewhere between the ages of 4 and 6. Now, as a parent today, I think of the ages of 4 and 6 as a protective stage where my primary job as mom is to keep them safe. But as a 4, let's say I was 5, because I'm pretty sure that this story happened when we were living in Texas, right? And our backyard sloped up, which meant that although there was a second-story deck, this is what the boys were doing. They were jumping off the deck onto the ground below, in which case then they would run in through the sliding glass door, up the stairs, down the hallway, out mom and dad's bedroom to the deck, over the railing of the deck, and plummet to the earth. This was their game, their choice of play. Now, as a 5-year-old, I was very little. I was still literally wearing toddler clothes, size 4 clothes, well into my first grade school. So I was little, I was tiny. I was also hungry to be included, to play with my brothers, not just alongside, not just tolerated and babysat by my older brothers. So one of the tours through the house, and my gut says it was Patrick, but I don't know. Patrick's the middle of the three. That one of them invited me, sure, you can do this too. Come along, join us. I don't think it was so much an invitation by wanting for me to participate as it was a willingness to allow me to take my turn. It wasn't going to impact their turn taking all that much. It wasn't like there was a long line to wait for jumping off the back deck. So I joined them and I climbed the stairs and I walked down the hallway and I walked into my mom and dad's room, opened the door onto the deck, and already my breath had changed. Already I was starting to feel like this was an edge of risk, of discomfort. Yes, it was absolutely unfamiliar. Yes, it was challenging my sense of confidence and competence. But more importantly, it was tickling an invitation to belong, to be included. And that won out, my friends. My need to be included outweighed my fear of being hurt or of doing something that was scary. So in those moments before actually jumping, let me walk you through what that was like for me. I kind of caught on the tail end of this adventure. My brothers were circling through the house, running in the sliding glass door to the backyard, up the stairs. I could hear them walk across the upstairs house, and then once again, they would appear coming in through the sliding glass door downstairs. So I knew that there was a circle, right? I had object permanence in understanding that in order to get from here to here, they had to be some sort of dismount. Well, I asked and was invited, sure, come along, do it with us. You can do this too. Well, that meant something to me, even as this young little thing, to be invited. I have other story times about the power of invitation and how it really is an impetus to belonging. And that was, like all of us, perhaps, my my main objective was to feel like I belonged. Now, because I was still a child, I didn't have those words. It was like, oh, they want to play with me. this is what we're doing. This is the game that we're playing. So I went up the stairs, and I can remember thinking, I don't want to jump off the deck, but I want to play with my brothers. I don't want to jump off the deck. That looks scary, but I want to play with my brothers. If I don't, will they tease me? Will they mock me? Will they make fun of me for not being courageous enough? But the real impetus was I didn't want to be left out, especially once that invitation had been extended. So I get up onto the deck. Now it's got these vertical bars to keep little kids like me from falling or jumping off of the deck, right? That's not safe. So I wiggled my way through the bars, the safety bars on the deck, right? The contractor knew how to build it safely. My brothers climbed over, I climbed through, and I'm holding on the railings behind me with my little feet stuck between the railings. I could actually feel the wood of the railing squeezing the either side of my ankles, the heels of my feet. And I'm standing there, and I made the mistake of looking down. And I'm holding on the bars behind me. And I can remember kind of a death grip, like breathing shallow and yet somehow faster and deeper. There was this shakiness, and I'm holding on and I'm looking down. And as I've talked about before, in the sense that I'm okay in the process as long as I don't see the risk full on, which looking down, that's the risk. But I take a breath, and I remember what's most important to me as a, let's say, 5-year-old child of 3 older brothers is to belong. I just want to belong. I just want to be included. So I don't really so much jump as I do just let go and let gravity do the work. Now, I wasn't told how to jump. It was really just a matter of letting go. But nor was I taught how to land. And the real risk of any jump is not the free fall, it's the landing, right? So I didn't land well. I didn't tuck and roll. I didn't even land with a cushion in my knees. It was more or less the ground hit me. Still shocked that I even let go. In which case I landed with one knee up and smacked my face on my knee. So instantly, my little new teeth, I hadn't actually lost all of my baby teeth yet, but I impacted them all, and I was bleeding all over my mouth, which of course now sends panic into my brothers that they're going to get in trouble because they were the impetus of this. They didn't get in trouble. They maybe, I don't remember, I wasn't part of the conversation. They maybe had some scolding in the sense that, did you really think it was a good idea to invite your little sister into this game? I honestly don't know. But I remember being so afraid as my lips instantly started to puff and swell, fat lips on this little teeny tiny face, and my little baby teeth were all shoved into my face. I don't think I actually lost any, which was probably good. But to this day, I have a little dent on my knee from where my teeth impacted my leg. So maybe the lesson of this story that universe wanted me to know was, don't do dumb things. Don't follow your brother's lead, right? Those would be wisdom, truth. Those would be absolutely wisdom. But what I learned from this moment was to recognize the dissonance and how it showed up in my breath, even though I was decades away from being introduced to not only body awareness and body mechanics, coordination from my dancing background, but the depth of energy and connection with prana that came with the study of yoga. Even then, I knew that I was making a choice between the safe and the risky. But what I do know is that that moment confirmed in me this relationship with courage and how my breath shifted based on the anticipation of what laid ahead, what awaited in the act of jumping, of letting go. With that moment, the safe meant I was alone. The risky meant I was included, I belonged, I was connected. Well, for me, to this day, there's no question which I'm going to choose. I'm going to choose to belong. Now, I'm going to fast forward a little bit, maybe the next summer, still somewhere in this 5-6 age range, but this one I know was in Texas. And the same feeling was stirred as I walked to the end of the platform diving board. This is not the springy kind that you can jump up and flip or whatever. This is so high, it's one of those platform kinds. And we're in Texas, and there's this pool, right, that we go to for our swim lessons. Well, the last day of summer swim lessons, and I have graduated through all of the content. So my teacher is praising me for advancing through all of the skills, even to the point where he taught me butterfly as a 5-year-old, this butterfly stroke. I wasn't very good at it, but I also didn't weigh much, so it wasn't very hard to do. But he challenged me, he says, do you want to jump off of that? If you've never been on a platform diving board, I don't recommend it. But if you want that exhilaration, because there is maths involved in terms of making sure that the platform is high enough that you can safely jump into the pool. But I didn't know anything about those physics and that math. All I knew was that with every step, the earth was getting farther and farther and farther away. Even going up the ladder, I felt my breath start to quaver, right? Start to shake. My knees literally shake. And again, my legs were probably this big around. I get up and I walk the length of the platform until I get to the end. And standing there on the end, not unlike standing there on the deck and holding on, I started to imagine, how do I get out of this? What is the way out? What's my escape route? Well, the way out of this was basically 2 ways. I could go forward and off the dive, or I could go back and down. Well, there was enough of me that was still convinced that approval of my teacher was more important than my safety. That's kind of skewed, isn't it, when you think about it as an adult? That it was more important for me to please my teacher than it was for me to honor what I was feeling. So I jumped. And I cried all the way down, cried swimming over to the teacher. And the teacher says, you didn't have to do that. Why did you do it if you didn't want to? Which maybe laid the groundwork for the next little story I want to share with you. Because these milestone moments of my childhood, of meeting the edge of where my confidence and my competence took me to make a choice in bravery, courage, right, has served me well into my advanced years of today. But the next story is where this autonomy and outside influence shifted. And this is the summer that my family moved from Texas to our new home in Maine. And on that journey over the summer, my dad had a couple of contracts that we stopped and we vacationed. Let me air quote those, vacation, these different locations. But one of them was near a Six Flags amusement park. Now, we'd never been to an amusement park before, but of course, this is now probably the late 70s. And maybe early 80s, maybe it was even 79, 80. The point being is that this was the cool thing to do on a family vacation. And so we got to go to this amusement park. And the highlight, of course, was the big roller coaster. Well, all of my brothers, we were all still young enough that we needed to have an adult go with us. So that was my dad's job. My dad's job was to go on the roller coasters. My mom's job was to stay with the littles, because there's 7 of us. There's always someone who was little who couldn't go on the roller coaster. Well, I made the choice at this point that I was not going to go on the roller coaster. It didn't look fun to me. It looked like those experiences that I've had, jumping off of the deck, jumping off of the diving board. Why would I strap myself into something that was going to give me that same sensation that scared the shit out of me? So I chose not to. My dad and my brothers went on the roller coaster, and I stayed with my mom and my younger siblings. And I watched them, and I had a lot of thrill in watching them and thinking, wow, they're so brave. They're so courageous. But my dad gets off the roller coaster, and the first thing he says to me is, well, that proves it. You're the smartest one of the bunch. I'm the 4th after these big boys in my eyes. I'm the smartest one of the bunch. He says, that was the scariest thing I've ever done, and you were smart not to go on it. And something about that external validation of someone who I adored and respected and loved and a little bit feared. This is a man who had served in the military. This was a man who not only raised 7 of us children, at that point there was 6 of us, but this was a man who had been a bull rider in the rodeo circuit. He was not a timid man. For him to come off the roller coaster and say to me, you're the smartest of the bunch because you said no. It taught me that sometimes the most courageous thing we can do is to say no to that which is not ours to do, that which does not fit into our alignment. So saying yes to jumping off the deck, saying yes to jumping off of the diving board, were ways in which I tested that courage and got intimate with what it felt like to be brave. But it wasn't until I had that next layer of internal confidence that I could say no to something that was an act of belonging, but recognizing that I would still belong, and in fact, maybe prove something different. Hence, I was the smart one to say no to something that was more than what I needed in that time frame. Now, fast forward, as an adult, I too did what my dad did, and I took my kids on the roller coaster. And what saved me from having a panic on that roller coaster was that my kid had a catatonic panic on the roller coaster. So we're kind of done with roller coasters in my life, I hope. But the lessons of learning to live with courage and cultivate this balance of compassion has been so paramount that it's helped me make the decisions of saying yes to job offers, saying yes to schools that had my program of study, even saying yes to my now partner and husband. But there were no's that came along with that. And it's only because I knew how and what to say no to that I was ready to say yes to the things that really did meet my needs and helped me to align with my values to live my life. So maybe today is an opportunity for you to say yes to something that feels scary. But maybe today is an opportunity for saying no to something that feels scary, but is also not right for you. Find a different way to tickle the edge of courage and curiosity. But as long as you stay with breath and listen to your breath, you'll make it through to the other side and get to begin again and choose something different if you need to. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I don't need to ride roller coasters, but I do have the courage to say yes to those things that matter and to say no to those things that don't, because of the mistakes that I've made, the scars that I've imprinted into my body, and the relationships that I've cultivated. So that's the story of courage in my life. I hope that you find some things and examples in your story of when you were tickled to that edge of courage and you found through your own compassion, your own sense of confidence and competence to choose wisely when to show up, when to risk, and when to say no. Take care, be well, and I'll see you soon. Namaste.